the next session. We have the third lecture. We have Professor Yoichi Tomiura, Director of Research Data Service Division of Kyushu University, speaking on the introduction to Research Data Service Division at our university. So, Professor Tomiura, the floor is yours. It looks like microphone's muted. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Tomiura. I am the Director of Research Data Service Division. As was explained at the beginning, last year in April, we established the new organization, a Data-Driven Innovation Initiative. We have two missions. One is to provide support. Excuse me. So these are the divisions for data-driven education research. And then the other one is New Digital Society. And I am particularly in charge of this division of Research Data Service. So this division has the mission, as you can see here, that is to provide information infrastructure for storing, sharing, and disclosing research data, as well as human support for research data management, such as supporting for creating DMPs or providing advice on research data management, or support for disclosing research data or literacy education. So that is our mission. In our vision, what is most important thing is to ensure the appropriate management and publication of research data that has to be realized without excessive burden on researchers. There will be always a burden on researchers, but we want to ease that burden as much as possible. And we have two units under our organization. Human support is provided by Open Science Promotion Unit. We have one professor and one associate professor. And we also have another assistant professor from Research Institute for Information Technology, and we also have one technical staff. The other unit is data management platform for storing and sharing research data. Under this unit, we have a professor from the Faculty of Information Science and Electrical Engineering, that is myself. And from the Research Institute for Information Technology, we have associate professor and assistant professor from the same institute, as well as another technical staff. And I'd like to talk about the background why we need to open research data. I believe if you're involved in libraries, I'm sure you know very well. So let me give you a recap. There has been a global trend for open science. In 2013, there was the G8 Science and Technology Ministers meeting, where there was the beginning of open science discussion. And based on that, within Japan, Ministry of Education and Cabinet Office decided to promote open science. They actually announced policies. Most recently, in May this year, there was G7 Sendai Science and Technology Ministerial meeting. They discussed the cooperation to expand open science. And in order to implement open science, incentives should be provided. So they actually made the declaration to provide support for research evaluation approaches that incentivize open science. There is also pressure applied by academic journals for disclosing evidence data. and also the research fairness. We were given the guidelines to store research data for 10 years, and universities are asked to come up with a guideline to ensure 10-year retention of research data. And most recently, there has been a data governance enhancement, especially in 2021, Six Science, Technology, and Innovation Basic Plan was announced that actually described the data policy formulation rate should be 100% in every university, and also all universities should have DMP, so that ratio should also be 100%. These are the numerical targets set. And also in 2024, for applying for granting aid, so perhaps January, February next year, when we are applying for granting aid, we are asked to submit our DMPs as well. So that will be the obligation. So with that as a backdrop, there is a need for us to provide support for researchers to be able to manage their research data. So what we are trying to do is lay the ground for smooth provision of support for data management. Sorry, this was the old presentation. At any rate, so I want to talk about our activities. First of all, I want to talk about the formulation of disclosure policy and research data management. We set up a working group last year, and this is composed of these members, as you can see here. We have 2 people from Division of RDS and 1 from the Division of General Affairs, and a collaborator from the library. We have 1 person, and 1 from Faculty of Law, and from the Faculty of Human Environment Studies, we have 1 member. We also have 1 from the Faculty of Engineering, as well as another member from the Academic Research and Industrial Collaboration Management Office. So we had 8 members in the working group. DX support members of the library also gave us additional support, especially in terms of documentation. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude. And the policy and explanations were developed in March this year. Our division webpage. We actually disclose the policy and explanation on our webpage. Based on the nature of our division, in order for us to assume our responsibility within our division, we came up with a guideline. We are making preparation for the guideline. And soon the guideline will be disclosed. So this is part of the research data management and disclosure policy. It's a policy, it's a simple one that could fit into a piece of paper. And the part of that that is shown here is about the management of research data and disclosure. The researchers do have the authority to manage its data and the responsibility to manage it. And university will have to provide an environment to make it easy. For disclosure, researchers and universities do have divided responsibilities and roles. researchers will decide whether or not to release their research data. A university, on the other hand, will provide a supportive environment. So this policy is rather abstract. On the other hand, in the process of making a policy, we had a discussion in the working group to come up with the explanation to explain exactly what the policy means. So we have different chapters in the explanation statement, starting with purpose and objectives. That includes the background and significance of research data, definition of research data, definition of researchers, and so forth. In terms of research data management, in the beginning of this chapter, you would see the contents of research data. And this is really about the definition of research data. It says the development of a research data management plan and management according to the plan, and modification of the DMP in accordance with the changes in the research plan, appropriate storage and use of research data during research, selection of research data for storage and disposal at the end of research, establishment and extension of storage periods, and so forth.
And after that, the roles of the researchers in the university and what kind of support is given at Kyushu University, and where and how long that those documents will be stored, and what happen if the researchers move to the other location, and how that research data will be migrated and belong to, and some notices for contracting, and some notices for the IPs. So we have explained in detail. And the last one is about the disclosure of research data, and the roles of researchers, the roles of universities are explained here as well. And in addition to that, decision on whether to release is explained here too. So that is about the policy and the explanation on it. And then the second activities that we would like to introduce you with is about this storage system. At the end of last year, we have implemented the storage system, so I would like to briefly talk about it. QRDM, Q stands from Kyushu University, and for the hot storage, we have a RAID 6 configuration, effective approximately 3 petabyte. We have 2 of them. And cold storage, we have a tape library device. It has a capacity of 6 petabytes. So we have a large size storage systems in place. And we have 2 hot storages, but one of them is the main one. And through Nextcloud, it provides the space, so the users will access to this main hot storage. And the other one is mirroring the main hot storage. So whenever there is a disaster happens, this is going to be the backup. So this hot storage is located in other campus. And cold storage, we are doing the backup of the main hot storage. And we are planning to cap the usage space per each faculty member. And we are thinking of the Gakunin RDM or the Nextcloud sharing function to allow students to share the advisors area. And for the capacity, we have enough at the moment, but enough space for 10-year storages, but we can use the other areas for the daily uses. But having said that, if we start operating on those storage systems, then we might find out that this capacity is not enough. So we need to consider how we are going to use them. And another storage is this QIR, Kyushu University Repository for Academic Information. So we are going to increase the capacity, and we have actually increased it with the effective of 60 terabytes, and we are going to use this for disclosing the research data. But having said that, this is a 60 terabytes. So the evidence data for the journal papers, disclosure for that, and a small size data disclosure is what we are planning to use this storage for. And I mentioned that QRDM will be shared through the Gakunin RDM, but the Gakunin RDM is the research data management platform provided by the National Institute of Information, project and project member management, and the storage owned by the institution and external storage can be linked to use. And also, it can be used to share the research data through this storage with the students and the collaborators. And the file was there, and no alteration took place after that. Will be guaranteed with this. In other words, a trail management. And we are planning to create and develop the Gakunin RDM users manual. But not all the users are versed with the information system. So as a manual, if you take a look at the manual provided by NII, you will be able to know how to use it, but we are thinking of make it more easy to understand. So for example, if you want to share the data within the project at the project, or how to add outside researchers as a project members and share data. So we are thinking of providing them in easier to understand manner by using some diagrams and other pictures. And next item that I would like to introduce is the release of on-demand RDM literacy materials. This will be happening soon. And coverage, as you can see, these are the topics that we are going to cover. But from chapter 1 to chapter 4, the library science, this was already created in a PTL1 of the Department of Library Science at Kyushu University in FY 2020. So based on this, we have made some changes and created this chapter 1 to 4. And we add one more chapter to cover this theme of research data service in Kyushu University. So the DX support of the library, I will check the contents and it will be released soon. And number 4 is the survey and compile a list of research data of faculty members at Kyushu University. So for those one that we have received the approval, we are going to release this. So we will be starting this survey soon. And what we are going to research on is the data name and data type, size, and so if we were to create this list based on this survey result to how much that can be disclosed will be asked in a survey paper as well. And if you have some data papers, the status of it, and if you have any papers created using that data, then to share that information. And depending on whether willing to disclose or not, this will be published and shared inside of the university. And activity number 5 is we are preparing the DMP creation support. We are collecting the DMP from inside and outside of Japan. And going forward, say AMA grant, we will apply for that and conduct a survey for those people who have created this and ask what are their pain points and what they would like to see improvement, and we would like to use them to improve going forward. Number 6 is the training of support personnel in collaboration with the Department of Library Science. And next speaker will be explaining about this topic in detail. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tomiura. We have time to accept questions. So if there are questions, we would like to try to answer them. So if you do have questions, please raise your hands. From the floor or from online participants? Yes, we do have questions in the chat box. Let me read this question out first. Very first question. In each unit, if you look at technical staff, what kind of backgrounds they have? Are they from the librarians, researchers? What are their backgrounds? In Open Science Promotion Unit, providing human support, the technical staff are basically clerical background. They do have clerical background. But the infrastructure unit, some of them come from manufacturers of electronic devices and who have the project management experience. So I think they know exactly how to run this unit. And this is how we selected appropriate human resources.
And the second question, you mentioned that you have put the cap for the spaces that one faculty member can use, but what would be the maximum capacity that they can use? And is there any case where that the cap might be different per each research area? That's a little bit difficult, but to give you the answer, the 2 terabytes per one faculty member is what we are thinking at the moment. Because the faculty members of the Kyushu University, researchers, we have about 2,000 of them, and if 3 petabyte means that 1.5 terabytes. But if everyone uses 2 terabytes, then that will be a problem. But if we are going to monitor the usage, and we are going to plan having the 2 terabytes as the maximum. And second part of your question, it is extremely difficult in reality to set a different capping for the different research areas. So we are not thinking of doing that. So I answer all the questions from the chat. Thank you. Any other questions?
I believe that he is willing to answer in-depth questions as well. So does anybody have question? If not, I guess you can still ask questions during the panel discussion. Let us close this presentation by Professor Tomiura.